The Diary of a Certified Psychopath. Off the crank. Barely an hour of fragmented slumber after Earth's solar sage had pierced a peach-pink horizon with its fiery peak, cast stellar silver rays through the perforated patchwork of cumulus cowls and stratus veils that formed a foaming estuary with the pearly plumes of smoke billowing from Shoreham Harbour's tower of fossil-fuelled power, and transformed golden silence into a rapturous celebration of this late summer dawn's dazzling denouement. A chorus of humdrum domesticity definitively wrenched me from Coach Sandman's recuperative domain. First on this highly rotated ambient playlist was the automated message broadcast to callers of our local GP surgery, and in this case initiated by my lifelong business partner attempting to book a blood test. After the clinic's virtual receptionist has warmly welcomed its waiting client and offered reassurance that all inquiries are of equal importance, then followed up with the ubiquitous disclaimer advising that their calls may be recorded to ensure the best quality of service is provided by a team of highly trained human staff, the caller is then diverted to a looped sample of music that sounds like it's been ripped off a CD filled with instrumental pieces rendered entirely by an AI-powered sequencing application, linked to a vast dataset of library music typically played in elevators and shopping malls, and whose advanced composition engines were prompted by their distracted creator to generate something which persuades patients that using the callback service would be a healthier option, regardless of whether they're number 3 or 33 in the queue. Every hospital under Ada's partnership uses the same system, I swore I heard a hungry herring gull holler just before swooping onto the canapé ledge outside my bedroom window to devour the last stale slice of homemade carrot cake donated to my mother by our family's freelance cleaner. This generous offering was the latest in a succession of edible and practical gifts by a lady who has yet to accept so much as a single sip of tea in return since starting work for us 2 years ago, despite going above and beyond to carry out all her strenuous duties. After ensuring that every exposed surface was more spotless than a sterilised scalpel, with all kitchen and bathroom tiles polished till they sparkled in submission under Olympian elbow grease and a hamper full of heavy-duty sanitisation products, she'd then diligently dress each bed with freshly laundered linen, ironed to the creaseless perfection that one would only anticipate from a 5-star hotel. As if consumed by guilt at the mere prospect of banking her modest weekly wage, whilst engaged with these tasks, she'd commit acts of impulsive philanthropy by leaving drawers and shelves populated with an endless supply of Brillo pads, magic sponges, medium-sized marigolds, liquid soap dispensers, one oversized cutlery tray, and well over 500 sachets of mustard, ketchup, salt and Marmite, pilfered from a local leisure centre where she used to work, as covert payback for the constant angst she'd receive from a belligerent boss. "I'll leave the icing if you don't mind," the turkey-sized seabird squawked before flapping up onto a neighbouring chimney stack. "The buttercream might be on the turn, and besides, I prefer to be vegan whenever possible." "Apologies," yelled my subconscious, "for not being able to satisfy your picky nutritional penchants even when at your most peckish. Perhaps you'd have preferred the high-protein balls I bagged yesterday, assuming you could squeeze your massive beak through the feeder bars." Noteworthy lowlights of the ensuing casually clad forage for the provisions I omitted from yesterday's priority list included one timely tow down Vale Avenue behind an appliances online van, which had pulled out from the curb after its driver had loaded a large and, I suspected, prematurely defective Smeg refrigerator into its spacious confines for responsible disposal. This brief but broad shelter from the same bullish southwesterly alliance whose blustery barrages had hammered me into a stem-chinning crouch during yesterday's urgent grocery grab was, after my traditional trundle through Southwick, followed by another chance slipstream behind a silver-haired gent who was masterfully piloting his bright red recumbent over Middle Road's infamous gauntlet of speed bumps and what would have been X-pinch points, had its newly implemented cycle lanes, which Ada Council's appointed constructors have carved through several formerly paved areas, not been too narrow to accommodate his rear wheels. A pointed encounter. Our climate clairvoyant's cold readings felt somewhat warmer than the annual average, since whenever their historic séance reports state that contact with the weather deity's spiritual domain was first established, though the padded chest of this natively reared skeptic suggested they were still off the mark by several positive degrees. Moreover, the stiff southwesterly oppressor, whose steadily mounting bluster provoked numerous squiggles of evasion throughout both my homebound legs of this nondescript wheeled wander across ancient pondering ground, packed a far greater sting in its tail and head than that of an errant wasp that lodged itself beneath the left cuff of my quilted jersey, having evidently tried to hitch a ride at some point between Southwick High Street and Rosslyn Avenue's allotment complex, where the breeze ferried fragrance from a large recycling bin, brimming with bottles and cans that still festered with the dregs of numerous alcoholic beverages, might well have attracted its trembling antennae. Initially feeling a telltale itch, I assumed that my metabolism was administering a dose of histamine in delayed response to a mosquito bite that I'd sustained in exactly the same location several days ago, and, not wishing to stop and scratch or risk negotiating Church Lane's tricky central chicane with no hands, shook my left arm to alleviate the tickle, which was promptly followed by an acute prick, very similar to that endured during a blood test, moments after your empathetic nurse has plunged their syringe into a bulging vein and said, "Sorry, should have warned you about the scratch." Glancing down, I instantly spotted my stripy stowaway, who had pierced my wrist, either in a desperate act of self-defence or to express their utmost displeasure regarding the cramped travelling conditions, which provided neither adequate leg nor wing space. This was my inaugural experience of any insect sting, and, due to being less painful than I'd anticipated from the horrifying anecdotes of various acquaintances, induced a panic that any follow-up jabs might be 10 times worse if I failed to react quickly. Having abundant lung capacity in reserve during a cautiously paced trundle along Middle Road, I blew upon my non-paying passenger as though trying to extinguish a novelty candle, whereupon it vanished into the dim glow of a blue Monday dawn, leaving me to ponder whether or not the claim that only female wasps were equipped with their species' potent form of protection was a painful truth, or another fragment of gender-binary fiction.